All right. Can you hear me okay there, Andrew?
We can, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome all. I will now call to order this October 23rd, 2025 joint meeting with Wasco County, Hood River County, Multnomah County, and Clackamas County Board of County Commissioners. I'm Craig Roberts, Chair of Clackamas County, and the Secretary of State has asked me to chair this meeting. I will now ask Clackamas County Clerk Board Andrew Jiraki to call the roll call for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll call the roll by county. From Wasco County, Commissioner Phil Brady.
Present.
From Wasco County, Commissioner Jeff Justison.
Present.
From Wasco County, Chair Scott Hedgie.
He just stepped into his office, Andrew, so he should be joining as a panelist just a moment.
I will return and ask for his presence after we finish the lists. Moving on to Hood River, Commissioner Arthur Babbitts.
Present.
From Hood River, Commissioner Letitia Moretti.
Present.
From Hood River, Commissioner Chad Munzer.
Present.
From Hood River, Commissioner Ed Weathers. Commissioner Weathers of Hood River. From Hood River, Chair Jennifer Ewer.
Present.
From Multnomah, Commissioner Julia Brim Edwards.
Present.
From Multnomah County, Commissioner Vince Jones Dixon.
Present.
From Multnomah County, Commissioner Megan Moyer.
Present.
From Multnomah County, Commissioner Shannon Singleton.
Present.
From Multnomah, Chair Jessica Vager Peterson.
Present.
And from Clackamas County, Commissioner Diana Helm.
Present.
From Clackamas County, Commissioner Paul Savis.
Present.
From Clackamas County, Commissioner Martha Schrader. Commissioner Schrader?
I'm here.
Thank you, Commissioner. From Clackamas County, Commissioner Ben West.
Having problems with muting.
Commissioner West? Chair, I will just return because I understand that a couple of our commissioners may have just been joining as we're taking the roll. So with your permission, Chair, I'll check to see if Wasco Chair Scott Hedgie, if I'm saying that correctly, is present. And I see he's in the attendee list, so I will promote him to panelists. Thank you for your patience. And I also see from Hood River, Commissioner Weathers has joined. I will also promote him to panelists. Chair Hedgie, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Thank you very much. And checking from Hood River, Commissioner Weathers, are you with us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you very much. And finally, returning to Clackamas, Commissioner West, are you present?
Can you hear me? I'm present.
Yes, we are.
Okay,
Thank
we're
you very
working.
much.
Thank you.
And from Clackamas County Chair, Craig Roberts.
Present.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All commissioners are present and accounted for. That concludes the roll.
Thank you. The purpose of our meeting today is to fill a current vacancy in the State Senate District 26. As prescribed by law, the political party to which former Senator Daniel Bonham belonged has chosen nominees for us to consider. The nominees are Representative Christine Drazen, Mr. John Grant, Representative Jeffrey Helfrich. And now I will introduce our staff to support today's meeting. So our legal advisor today is Clackamas County Senior Assistant Legal Counsel, Jeff Munns. Our clerk today from Clackamas County Clerk to the Board, Andrew Jiraki. And I will now turn to our clerk and ask him to explain the procedure of today's meeting for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The order of today's meeting will be as follows. Public comment, followed by nominee opening statements, questions for nominees from each board, nominee closing statements, deliberations, voting, an optional statement by the selected nominee, and finally, closing statements. In a few moments, Chair Roberts will open the meeting for public comment. Members of the public may comment for up to 1 minute each. As Chair Roberts has requested those who wish to speak to register in advance, I will use the list of registrees to announce the next speaker. Once public comment has concluded, the nominees will be invited to make opening statements. Each nominee shall have an opportunity to make a 2-minute opening statement. The nominees will be called upon in alphabetical order of last name: Drazen, Grant, Elfrich. Once opening statements are complete, Chair Roberts may call a brief recess as needed. We then will move to the question and answer portion of the meeting. Each county's board may ask up to 2 questions. The order of the questions will be Wasco County first, then Hood River, then Multnomah, and finally Clackamas. After each board question, all nominees will have 2 minutes to answer. I will rotate the nominee speaking order for each board question. As a reminder to the public, this is not a public hearing, so no testimony will be received during or after the Q&A portion. Once the Q&A portion of the meeting is complete, each candidate will be called upon to provide a 1-minute closing statement in reverse order from the opening statements. I will keep time for all speaking during this meeting. Chair Roberts may again call a brief recess after Q&A as needed. Following that, we will begin deliberations. All commissioners will have a chance to comment during deliberations. After commissioner comments, Chair Roberts will call for a vote. The votes will be made in alphabetical order, ending with the 4 chairs. Only commissioners who are present may cast votes. No proxies are allowed. If a commissioner is absent, their vote is recorded as 0, and that county loses the ability to use that commissioner's votes. As provided by the Secretary of State, commissioners' votes are weighted to reflect the share of voters in Senate District 26 living within each county. Wasco County commissioners will each have 5 votes. Hood River County commissioners will each have 3.4 votes. Multnomah County commissioners will each have 1.8 votes. And Clackamas County commissioners will each have 13.8 votes. Because this process is governed by a weighted formula and is not the usual 1 vote per 1 commissioner system, staff will show the voting matrix in real time for clarity and transparency during the vote. As a reminder, state law requires a nominee to receive only a plurality to be appointed. This means the nominee who gets the most votes, even if not a majority of all votes, will be appointed. If 2 or more candidates are tied in votes, Chair Roberts will call for additional deliberations and votes as needed until a nominee is selected. That concludes my overview of the meeting, Mr. Chair. May we begin with public comment?
Okay, just before we begin public comment, I just want to thank those who submitted written comments and that we appreciate all the public participation. And since we are having a lot to accomplish today, let's just aim comments to take no more than 30 minutes total. So clerk, could you go ahead and begin the moderation?
Thank you very much, Chair. Please hold while I pull up the most recent list of those who pre-registered to ensure fairness. As a reminder for everyone who wishes to speak, I am using the list of those who pre-registered. I will announce one name who will have 1 minute, and afterwards I will announce the person who will follow them so that they may begin to prepare while the first person is speaking. First, I see Adam Marl. Adam Marl, if you are present and still wish to speak, I ask you to please raise your hand. And this is a reminder to everyone that you will have 1 minute. Mr. Marl, I do not see your hand, so I'll move down the list. Akimi Noresh. Akimi Noresh, please raise your hand if you wish to speak still. I'll continue to move on. Alex Blosser, Mr. Alex Blosser, if you wish to speak, please raise your hand. Seeing no hands, I'll move on. Miss Allison Williams. Allison Williams, if you wish to speak, please raise your hand. Moving on. Andrea Moore. Andrea Moore, if you still wish to speak, please raise your hand. Seeing none. Angela Peterson. Angela Peterson, if you wish to speak, please raise your hand. Seeing no hand, I'll move on. Ann Walker, please raise your hand if you wish to speak. Ann Walker. Seeing no hand. Ashley Graff. Ashley Graff, please raise your hand if you wish to speak. Just a reminder to our audience, if you are attending and you indicated in your pre-registration you wish to speak, I'm using this list to call your name. If you still would like to speak during this meeting, this is your opportunity to please raise your hand and I will call on you. Moving on, Ashley Kunze. Ashley Kunze, if you'd select to speak, please raise your hand. Moving on, Audrey Tran. Audrey Tran, please raise your hand. Moving on, Bradley Cross. Bradley Cross. Moving on, Brendan Finn. Brendan Finn. Moving on, Brian Beebe. Brian Beebe. Moving on, Bryce Dole. Bryce Dole. Mr. Chair, Commissioner Vince Jones-Dixon had his hand raised. I'm not sure, Commissioner, if that was a question or a mistake.
It's just a comment. I think all of my staff, you mentioned their names. So I think all of our staff might have, when they filled out the application, that they might have clicked the button to provide comment. It might be easier to do it on the reverse, like have folks that want to provide public testimony just raise their hand now, or you can just read through the list.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Chair, it's possible that those who have signed up to speak may have either unintentionally checked the box that they wish to speak or have changed their mind. Would you like me to continue reading the lists of those who have pre-registered, or would you like to change to a hand raise system as Commissioner Jones-Dixon has suggested?
Yes, why don't we go ahead and switch to raise your hand?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you're attending this meeting, regardless whether you pre-registered and wish to speak, please raise your hand. I will call on you in the order that I see. First up, I see Lori Kimmel. Lori Kimmel, I'll unmute you. Second will be Thomas Bussey. Lori Kimmel, then Thomas Bussey. A reminder that you each will have 1 minute. Please begin your comments by introducing yourself with your name and your area of residence.
My name is Master Sergeant Lori Kimmel, South Clackamas County. I wish to address you county commissioners because I am a veteran and Christine Drazen has done so much for the veterans. Just recently, she introduced a House resolution for, it was for honoring Vietnam vets who were killed in action in Clackamas County. There were 18 names, and I serve on the Veterans Advisory Committee. We went to Representative Drazen's office, and we went and crafted a House resolution, which Senator Bonham carried in the Senate, and it was passed overwhelmingly. And as a returning veteran from post 9/11, we do not have a strong enough lobby in the Oregon legislature. Now, Christine Drazen has done a great job of—
Ms. Kimmel, that is 1 minute.
Okay, let me sum this up. She is our strong lobby in the Oregon House. We need it in the Oregon Senate. And as a freshman, she did a wonderful job in sponsoring a bill when she was a freshman way back, I believe it was 2018 for House Bill 2203-1 for a statewide veterans treatment court. But she is the voice that we need in the Oregon Senate.
Thank you, Ms. Kimmel. Next, Thomas Bussey. Thomas Bussey, I'll unmute you and you'll have 1 minute.
Thank you very much. I don't know why you can't see my video. I am a Multnomah resident and I am the elected treasurer of the Libertarian Party of Oregon. I'm hoping that we can use this question and answer session to put the candidates on record about issues that are important to us. Because I only have 1 minute, I'm going to bring up one specific issue, which I hope a commissioner will ask. Which is the urgent and desperate need for reform of professional and occupational licensing in Oregon. The Institute of Justice has ranked Oregon dead last with a D- grade in terms of professional licensure. And as a Multnomah resident, I would say to my Multnomah commissioners, this is the problem with our preschool program because the oppressive occupational licensure regime for preschool teachers in the state of Oregon, where where Oregon ranks dead last. So if I would urge the candidates to put on the record if they will put occupational licensure reform on their legislative agenda. Many thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Busey. Next, Michael Abrams. Michael Abrams, and this is a reminder, if you are attending this meeting, regardless whether you pre-registered as a member of the public and wish to speak, to please raise your hand. Mr. Abrams, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Michael Abrams, Multnomah County Commissioners. On behalf of the American Civil Liberties Union of Oregon, my name is Michael Abrams. My pronouns are they, them, and I serve as policy counsel. The ACLU of Oregon is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization dedicated to defending and advancing democracy, civil liberties, and civil rights, with more than 48,000 members and donor supporters statewide. Oregonians deserve leaders who will defend our constitutional rights, our sovereignty as a state, and the safety of our communities, not bend to political intimidation. Right now, that means a senator who will unequivocally oppose the federalization of National Guard troops for deployment to Portland or elsewhere in Oregon, and who will stand firm against the Trump administration's efforts to create a national police force through militarized federal agents or the military, which threatens the rights of all. The administration and its allies may hope to divide us, but they underestimate the state. We will continue to expose dishonesty and abuses of power, and we will keep showing up for one another peacefully, with courage and resolve. Our representatives must do the same. We ask that all elected leaders and all candidates be stalwart in their positions, that they will protect Oregon's constitutional right to local self-governance by opposing any and all forms of federal abuse of power. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is a final call. If you are attending this meeting and wish to comment, regardless whether you registered in advance, to please raise your hand, and I will call on you in the order that I see. Mr. Chair, I see no other members of the public raising their hand who wish to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Jiraki. And thank you to all the members of the public who spoke or wrote in today. And I want to turn to our clerk as to what's next.
Mr. Chair, next is opening statements from the nominees. Nominees, this is a reminder that you each have 2 minutes for your statement. As was explained, the order for opening statements will be in alphabetical order by last name, and for concluding statements will be in reverse order. So to begin, Representative Drazen, you will have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here today. It is a privilege to be with all of you. Again, my name is Christine Drazen, and I am the state representative for House District 51. And I'm honored to be a nominee to fill the vacancy left by the resignation of Senator Daniel Bonham. I first stepped into the Capitol building all the way back in 1995 as a young staffer. I worked in the House Majority Office at the time and rose to Chief of Staff for the Majority Leader and then the Speaker of the House. That was my first opportunity to really see the good that can come from public service inside our state capitol. I also saw opportunities where our elected leaders fell short and failed to really serve the full needs of Oregonians across our state. It left an indelible mark on me, and I'm deeply committed to continuing that work. I had the privilege of returning to the legislature in elected capacity in 2018, where I served as Republican leader, always with a commitment to improving the lives of Oregonians and standing up for the future of our state on behalf of families and businesses statewide. I am deeply grateful to have the endorsement of Senator Daniel Bonham for this position to complete his term through this appointment process. And I recognize that he's got very big shoes to fill. And this next year, it would be a privilege to work on behalf of Senate District 26 and continue to tackle the problems that face our state, whether or not that's youth homelessness, wildfire response, increasing agency accountability, or tackling the high costs which burden Oregon families. It would be a privilege to represent this Senate district in the state legislature. And I look forward to our conversation today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Grant, you are next.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is John Grant. I'm deeply honored to be considered for the appointment to Senate District 26. I have raised my family here in the Dalles within Oregon, and I have came to coach quite a few teams and youth teams, and this year was much more important, where I taught a group of kids perseverance, and I think perseverance is extremely important when it comes to filling the roles of Senate District 26. I'm no stranger to perseverance. Growing up, just when I was 2 months old, my father passed, and I grew up being, kind of a troubled youth, and luckily the military straightened me out, and I continued on in leadership, in management, and in sales. And it was through my friend Daniel Bonham, who was my first boss when I came to the Dalles, and he got me into being a PCP for the Wasco County Republicans. I had eventually became the vice chair and then became the chairman, and I've been serving in this capacity for the last 7 years. I have ran on boards for the school budget committee, as well as being a planning commissioner. I've worked with the ORP, and I have also worked with the Chamber of Commerce as on the board of directors. So I've continued my leadership, and I hope to continue that in Salem. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And finally, Representative Helfrich, please go ahead.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. For those who don't know me, I think I've talked to just about everybody here. My name is Jeff Helfrich, State Representative for House District 52. I entered into politics actually when I was a police officer with the city of Portland and small community Cascade Locks. Eventually that led to me becoming the state representative. And I got to be the state representative. Daniel Bonham and I both came in to the state legislature at the same time in 2017. I lost my race, but I came back, and I came back in 23. And so with that, it's a true honor. He was my roommate. He's done a great job as senator, and I would love to be able to fulfill his role, his rest of his term. He's done a great job. But for me, there's a lot of politicians who do the work because they want the title. They get caught up with the attention, the headlines, all while nothing really changes. That's really not me. Politics today seems to be about who gets the credit, who gets the check, who gets the power, instead of who actually gets to get helped. I'm not interested in playing that game. What I'm interested in is problem solving. As a problem solver, during my time as House Republican leader, I led the charge on recriminalizing drugs and started fixing Measure 110's failures. We took steps that were real to get money out of politics, but also be able to get things done. And none of these things would be considered my perfect solution to these problems, but they were progress, and that's how real change starts. I've seen, I think you guys have seen, where watching in Salem has turned into a place where both parties care more about making headlines than making a difference. I am a Republican, but I don't see Democrats as being the enemy. I see the enemy as the political culture that makes compromise impossible and rewards people for playing politics instead of doing their jobs as a public servants. I spent over 30 years in law enforcement as an Air Force veteran, a police officer in the city of Portland for 25 and a half years, and from Multnomah County for about 6 months. And then from there, I became a legislator. My career has been based upon results, accountability, not ideology. In law enforcement, there's a cornerstone of leadership, the principles, which is I cares, integrity, compassion, accountability, respect, and excellence. I'm not running for this seat to be a stepping stone to somewhere else. I'm doing it because I care, proven leadership. That's what it's meant to me. Thank you for your opportunity for this.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chair, that concludes the statements from all nominees.
Clerk, let's now proceed with the board questions for the nominees.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I will call on each county to ask their questions. As I previously stated, each county will have a total of up to 2 questions. After each question from a board, all 3 nominees will have up to 2 minutes to respond. Wasco County will begin. Wasco County, please proceed with your first question.
All right, thank you. So the question is, with the economy in both the federal and Oregon starting to falter, what can Oregon do to ensure a strong economic future? And what can you do or will you do specifically in this role to ensure a strong economy for Oregon?
First, to rotate the order, Mr. Grant, please answer first. And a reminder to each nominee, you'll have 2 minutes.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Hagee, for that question. I really believe in less taxation. I believe, the deregulation for businesses in a healthy manner, just making sure that businesses can be able to get everything that they need without the cost that sometimes government can imply on them. So that would be some of the ideas that I would have going forward on that.
Thank you very much. Next, Helfrich, your turn to answer.
It's not really a secret that we've become unbusiness friendly with the amount of taxes that have gone on, the amount, whether it's the cat tax or building homes. When we look at jobs leaving our state, when Intel leaves with 2,400 jobs that leave, it's just not Intel across the nation or world. It's because it's unaffordable. The housing is not affordable. The regulations aren't being business friendly, and we have to dial that back. We have to be smart about how we build and we plan, but we can't keep asking businesses to continue to be the big burden of paying the taxes all the time. The problem is we've had numerous logging mills leave the state. We've had businesses leave, relocate because of the tax structure that we have. We have to look at this. We have to get back to the basics of what is the function of government, how do we provide those services, and how does that money get spent appropriately?
Thank you. And finally, Drazen, your turn to answer Wasco County's first question.
Yeah, thank you for this. I actually think that this is one of the most critical issues facing legislators right now in our state. I think we are absolutely in a position right now where we are hemorrhaging jobs. And we feel it in our communities, our families feel it, but here very soon, our local governments and our state government are going to feel it. And so if we want to be a part of turning our economy around, we've got to listen to business. We've got to listen to people that create jobs. And when they tell us that they would love to see a moratorium on new rulemaking and new regulations, we need to do our best to listen to that. We're in a position right now where public policymakers at all levels have a role to play in turning our economy around and strengthening the economic viability of our state. We want to be a welcoming place for business. We want to be a welcoming place for families to come knowing that they can find a job, that their kids can get a good education, that they can build a life here. And I believe that it is important that every single one of us take responsibility for that. But certainly at a state legislative in that lane, We're the #1 problem for adding regulations to businesses and harming our economy and making things more difficult for people to be able to grow a business here. And so the future is in our hands here. We can turn this thing around. We absolutely legislatively can pause the heavy-handed rulemaking. We can help businesses and work with them and see how we can begin to partner with them in these tough times. And I believe as state legislators, that's our job, and that we absolutely can do that.
Thank you very much. That concludes Wasco County's first question. Wasco County, if you wish to ask a second question, please ask it now.
All right. Our second question is, with the recent transportation bill passing in the last session, it included significant funds for cities and counties for roads. So the conservative side of the political spectrum is tending to support repealing this measure. And if that measure is repealed, how do you suggest cities and county replace the funding that came through that bill?
Thank you very much. Continuing with our rotation of the nominee order, Mr. Helfrich, please answer first.
Thanks. Transportation has been a big issue. It's been a huge thing, not just during long session, but the special session. And Commissioner Hagee, you're exactly right. How do we pay for those services? How does ODOT consider, how do we get the money? ODOT's had record revenue coming in. We had bills as Republicans in the House, how to keep them afloat, how to move it forward, whether it's using emergency funding and or using just freezing the existing services at this point. I think we still have to look at that. I know there's a tax initiative that's been put, or the petition initiative to stop that. We'll see how that plays out. Once that does play out, then we have to come back to the drawing board and fix it. But I think there's plenty of opportunities within the agency itself to make the cuts that we need to have to get you guys, the counties and the cities, the money that they need to continue working towards maintaining the road structure and then what you guys will need for the next biennium.
Thank you very much. Next, Ms. Drazen, go ahead, please.
Thank you. And thank you, Commissioner, for that question. It's interesting, this last legislative session, the conversations that we perpetually had around transportation focused on the state. I know you guys were keyed into those conversations. You guys were active lobbyists in the process with us, coming into our offices, talking to us about that. And we kept having conversations about the Department of Transportation and how ODOT was struggling to make ends meet. And what we weren't talking about as much in those public conversations was the very good work being done by cities and counties, and the fact that you guys are not the ones that are on the chopping block for bloat and bureaucracy and mismanagement of funds. That was never leveled at cities and counties. Cities and counties were always partners in maintaining miles and miles and miles of roads across our state, and that was essential work. But as policymakers in Salem, we had in front of us a proposal which would just simply have sustained the status quo for the Department of Transportation, an agency that really, really needed accountability and really needed to get back to the drawing board and say, what are our core functions and what are we doing that doesn't have to be done, and how can we do this differently to respond to the fact that Oregon families can't afford these cost increases right now. So from my perspective, I always supported the need to be able to balance the budget for ODOT without raising taxes. And then when we go to raise taxes, it would actually be for new lanes, expanded systems, and to benefit Oregonians themselves. So I absolutely believe that cities and counties always have the opportunity to be able to go and increase their own taxes as well. But certainly the partnership with the state is a critical and long-standing tradition that must be maintained.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Grant, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I think this is definitely a budget question. Where do we go as far as continuing to spend on a state level? And when we run out of money, we just continue to tax our people of Oregon. So I think that there are budgets that can be drawn up to be able to bring funds in for our roads, for our city and counties and our state. So I don't think I don't think we have to continue to tax people. we did have the House and the Senate from the Republican Party fight and come up with alternatives to this measure that they came out with. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes the 2 questions for Wasco County. We'll now move to Hood River. Hood River County, please proceed with your first question.
Thank you. Since you are in the minority party, in what ways have you demonstrated or would you demonstrate the ability to work with the majority to advance the needs of our district?
Thank you. Continue with our candidate rotation. Ms. Drazen, please answer first.
Thank you. And thank you for that question. People talk quite a bit about bipartisanship in the state legislature. And to your point, being in the minority party, the only way we get anything done is by being bipartisan. And it has been a great privilege of mine to be able to identify issues where we can work across the aisle and where we do have shared goals and that we absolutely can collaborate to get some of those things done. One of the priorities for me through the years has always been youth homelessness and addressing youth homelessness. I passed legislation in my freshman term that would expand access to programming in the rural parts of my legislative district, and then move forward in collaboration with the majority leader while I was serving as the minority leader. And we jointly passed legislation to expand that programming statewide. And so I am very proud of the multiple opportunities that we have seen to work together. I will always put my foot down when there is overreach from single party control and it harms Oregonians. But there are lots and lots of issues that are in fact not partisan and that we can find ways to reach across the aisle. Throughout the period where we were addressing COVID in particular, we had 5 special sessions that were very bipartisan in response to the needs of Oregonians at that time. And we continue to find opportunities to work together. That will always be the gold standard. We're Oregonians, and we're Oregonians first. And while we enter this process under a party banner, our work is to do our absolute best to serve the needs of Oregonians regardless of party. And that's certainly the case in legislative service. It's not about serving Republicans, it's about serving our constituents, and they are our shared constituents. And I'm grateful for that, and I would look forward to additional opportunities to work together to that end.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Grant, go ahead, please.
Thank you for that question. I believe wholeheartedly that we're all Oregonians. I think fundamentally that we all want the same things for our state. We want a great education system. We want a thriving economy. We want affordable housing. We want low crime rates, and the list continues on of the same goals. Some of the differences come between how we get there. And I've, on a community level, I've worked well with a lot of people across the aisle, when it's nonpartisan, and, I can continue to do that because I'm a relationship builder, and that comes with a bunch of different backgrounds, people from different parties, and from different parts of the country, from other countries. So I'm a strong advocate for teamwork to get the ultimate goal of having a thriving Oregon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And finally, Mr. Helfrich, go ahead, please.
Thanks for the question. I think most recently for me to show that I can work bipartisan is the Measure 110 reforms that we did. We recriminalized hard drugs. But more importantly, as a police officer, when I showed up to somebody's door, it was about solving problems. And it was about how do we get to a yes? Not always, but how can we get to a yes here? And we all have different ways of going about doing our business, but it's about relationships. And in the House, you have to have good relationships with everybody. You may not like some of the politics sometimes, but you have to have those good relationships. And then the Senate provides the opportunity to expand those relationships, but you're there longer to sit down there and get good work done over a couple of sessions. So for me and how I've worked across to get things done for the district is because I've been bipartisan. I've been able to bring home $105 million for the Hood River Bridge because that was important. And I knew how to be in that building and get relations and get a bill passed. Also, part of that is part of the bonding that was going to happen with that bill was the ability, they were going to bond all that bill in one, and they were going to take the whole 105 million, which would have taken out lottery bonds, would have maxed them out. I recognized that, worked with the stakeholders and said, how much money do we need now to work over a couple of bienniums to get the money that's needed for the bridge so you can spend it as you need it? So we did that, but what that did was offered other opportunities for other legislators to bring home project money for their projects at home. And so it's just not bipartisan work within each side of your political spectrum. It's about actually working together throughout the whole process. And it's about, as we said, it's about people, not party. And that's how we have to look and serve our constituents. It's about how do we do best for them and how do we get the best results for them.
Thank you, Mr. Helfrich. Hood River County, if you have a second question for the candidates, please proceed.
Given recent rumors, how can you allay our fears that you won't have time to serve the residents of this district rather than focusing on running for statewide office?
Thank you very much, Chair. You are continuing with our nominee rotation for answers. Mr. Grant, please answer first.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the first part of that question. If we could repeat that one more time.
The question is really specific to one of you. Given the recent rumors, how can you allay our fears that you won't have time to serve the residents of this district because you're focusing on running for statewide office?
Oh, well, thank you for that question. I do not plan on running for statewide office, so you will have my full time and attention to Senate District 26. And
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. Next, Mr. Helfrich, go ahead, please.
Thanks for the question. I never thought in my growing up as a kid I would end up in politics, let alone be the House Republican leader for that time and then make the impact that I did. And the Senate for me is the end point for my political career. I don't plan on seeking higher office. I don't want to go to DC. My wife and I have talked about those things. Anything else other than where I'm at, my kids are 11 and 13. And I want to be around to see what they do and all the great things and experience them. And I guarantee I have filed for the Senate seat. I can plan on running for the Senate seat, but also it's at least 4 years, if not a second term on top of that. 8 years gets me to where my kids are out, just getting out of the house, and I get to go follow them around, chase them around, and watch them do their sports and the great things that their kids are going to do and follow them around. So that's my commitment. I'm not going to seek any higher office than being a state senator.
Thank you, Mr. Helfrich. Finally, Ms. Drazen, please.
Thank you. So I appreciate this conversation, and I certainly appreciate the question. You know, I am always somebody that is going to give my absolute all and my absolute best to whatever I undertake. And as I've had the privilege and the opportunity to serve in the state legislature, I have not ever backed down from a challenge. And I believe that this Senate seat in particular has very big shoes to fill from Senator Bonham. And I think that he, with his endorsement of me, knew that I would give it my all, that I would give it my best to serve this district. And had he completed his term, there's no doubt that Senator Bonham also might have been looking at running for some other office since he could not run for re-election. Unfortunately, he was not able to run for re-election to this seat. And so this Senate district was going to have an open seat and an open contest under any and all circumstances. So I can tell you, I've talked to each one of you, and I've really appreciated those conversations. I am committed to doing my absolute best to serve this district throughout the remainder of Senator Bonham's term, and I am committed to doing right by his endorsement and serving this district to the best of my abilities. Just the fact that you would consider that I would be the person, I'm assuming that it was directed to me, that might consider statewide office. For me, that is just a reflection of the fact that I am always determined to do more than everybody else sometimes is willing to do to serve the greater good for the state of Oregon. But that begins with this district. I would not have accepted Senator Bonham's endorsement and been willing to take on the responsibility that he so dearly loved to represent this Senate seat if I were not completely committed to doing my best by the constituents in Senate District 26.
Thank you very much. That concludes Hood River County's 2 questions. Next, Multnomah County, please ask your first question.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. Good afternoon. Again, Commissioner Jones-Dixon here. I'm going to build, this is another transportation question, but with a finer point on, SD 26. The portions of Senate District 26 in East Multnomah County have roads that are crumbling and a lack of transit services. This impacts our ag economy and our ability to promote agro-tourism. While the legislator took action on a short-term fix to transportation funding, it will not address the systemic issue, which relies on a declining revenue source. Besides doing more with less and disinvestment in existing programs like public transportation, what is your long-term vision for providing the revenue needed to build a transportation system needed for our economy to thrive?
Thank you, Commissioner. Continuing with our nominee rotation scheme, Mr. Helfrich, please answer first.
Thank you, Commissioner Dixon. Thank you. I know we were at the tour that was at a few years, I guess it was last year or so, when you and I were out there looking at those roads, looking at the crumbling, looking at the bridges. I'm very keenly aware of what's going on in that district. That also that part of that district is, we talk about agritourism. I've always had the philosophy and leadership. If I'm the smartest one in the room, I'm in the wrong room. And it's going to take a collective group of people to get together to figure out how we're going to be able to fund these resources or fund these projects that need with the resources, with the limited dollars that we have. But also, you have a lot of things going on out there in East Multnomah County when it comes to the water project that Portland's done and tearing up those roads, and who's going to be accountable for what's going on out there with their water treatment project. Those are questions that we have to sit down and have a conversation about, get everybody in the room and say, how are we going to slice this up? Because if we don't have good roads, people aren't going to want to be out there. If these roads cause problems and cause accidents and even death at some points because of these things, that's a problem. And I'm going to say right now, I don't have the answers, but I'm willing to sit at the table and have that conversation and figure it out. Being on the transportation committee, those are some big, heavy asks and big, heavy lifts that we're trying to figure out. But it's engaging local leadership like yourself at the city and county levels to get this done. And so that's my commitment to make sure we can move this forward to get the roads out there in East Multnomah County, East Multnomah County, west of me, out there in Corbett, in those areas like that are really rural that need the help.
Thank you, Representative.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Drazen, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. I have been thinking a lot about this. Obviously, when Republicans, and I was the leader at that time, proposed an alternative to the $15 billion transportation package, it was our intent to engage authentically in that process and to say, we understand the assignment here. We know how important infrastructure is. We know how important transportation is. And we recognize that constituencies across the state use the transportation systems differently. And some areas are very dependent on transit, and other areas need access to roads and they use their roads and bridges. And there's actually a little bit less of the population using their transit services. And so balancing out all those needs is actually always the challenge. And that's really the important role that our local government partners play in helping us better understand what on the ground needs are for our shared constituents. But I would say this in particular about revenue sources moving forward. I think we identified through this process, I think they gave us, it was just pages and pages and pages from the Department of Transportation that they told us these are non-core functions that we engage in. We're spending gas tax dollars on the following things that we don't view as core to our mission. I think we have to balance these things out. And so I think that we can't assume that Oregonians can always afford more. And I think that's a premise I walk in with. And, there might be differences of opinions on that. But I think given the economy right now, we could say, what can we do first that doesn't burden Oregonians? And then second, where else do we need to go for that gap? And when it comes to transit specifically, I would say that when we increased the funds in 2017 for transit and they instituted a payroll tax, what we saw transit districts not sharing that burden with riders, and they would be free rides instead of sharing those cost burdens. They suddenly weren't charging anymore for those rides. And I think having that as a part of the conversation has to be part of the solution here.
Thank you very much. Finally, Mr. Grant, go ahead, please.
Thank you for that question. I'm very familiar with the East Multnomah County roads and areas. That's an area that I'm in on a regular basis for my job. It definitely would be a collective effort coming from the local municipalities and county, and trying to be able to come up with some problem-solving efforts. Along with that, I don't want to sound redundant, but I think that accountability with budgets is something necessary that we need for funding for these for transportation and for our roads. I think that Oregon as a whole, we can do a little bit better. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the answers to Multnomah County's first question. Multnomah County, if you have a second question, please go ahead.
Yes, we do. Thank you. Thank you again, Andrew, and thank you all for the responses. The final question for us is in East Multnomah County, specifically, we have a lot of community members that are on fixed incomes. And a lot of them are relying on federal food access programs and healthcare benefits. With the current federal legislation restricting and ending those benefits for a lot of folks in our district, and including in Senate District 26, what is your plan as a state senator to ensure that no resident in Multnomah County, Hood River County, Wasco County, or Clackamas County loses healthcare and food access benefits? Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Continuing with our rotation, Ms. Drazen, please answer first.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. These are times where the state has a responsibility to do what it can to be more efficient with the resources that are available to us. I think part of the challenge is for why those numbers have been so stark as well is that the state has in some of those programs massive error rates where they don't actually check whether or not people are eligible, which at the end of the day, in some cases means that people that might not be eligible for some of those services are taking those services from people that are actually needy and actually are eligible for those services. Some of our review periods are 2 years, and we need to shift those review periods for eligibility back to 6 months. And those are things that we can do. And once we get our error rates down into 5 and 6% instead of 16%, we'll actually see some of those funds return as well. And so when you look at our state budget, that's something that we are facing right now. And we're having those conversations today about how the state can step up and be responsive to what's an appropriate federal expectation that the eligibility terms are met in some of these programs. And also for the people that are needy, that the state ensures that we actually are providing for our needy citizens across our state. And so, yeah, I'm in that with you to fight that fight and make sure that folks get what they need. On the other side of it, I will insist that the state just absolutely abide by the exact same eligibility standards that they do across the rest of the nation, and that we don't let that eligibility period lapse.
Thank you very much, Ms. Drazen. Next, Mr. Grant, please proceed.
All right. Well, thank you for that question. It's definitely an alarming situation to be in. We don't want to see people that need benefits and not be able to receive them. For as far as something that I would be able to provide as an answer, simply put, is without all the information, I wouldn't be able to give a very good answer. And without the education and without the knowing what the state would be able to provide at this time, I wouldn't be able to give you a great answer for this question. So my apologies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. Finally, Mr. Helfrich, please go ahead.
You know, there's been a lot of conversation, a lot of thought about this very question when it came to the budget towards the end of the long session. And the chairs, the co-chairs, were very concerned about budgets, and we only have so much left in our emergency fund. And then how do you spend those dollars? And then how do you create the accountability portion of it? There is a answer to it, but I don't know what that is right now. Representative Drazen, you know, spoke eloquently about some of the processes that are there. We do know, like, OHA has not done very well with their accountability when they've lost $100 million a couple of years ago when trying to figure out when they're paying out the dollars for Measure 110 and the services going out there. So we really have to look and see where that money's at, where the money is at under the couch cushions to get stuff done. I don't have the answer to you. Again, I don't have that direct knowledge of where we're at, but those are questions that are going to be tough questions to ask, and the answers, they're going to be tough, even tougher answers to figure out where our solutions are going to be going from. But that is where we, again, get the right people in the room and having those conversations and having the internal fortitude to say yes or no to these certain programs. But we don't want to leave anybody behind, and we don't want to sit there and watch people get kicked out of their homes or not be able to put food on the table. But we have to adhere to what the standards are across the nation.
Thank you, Mr. Helfrich. That concludes Multnomah County's 2 questions. Finally, moving to Clackamas County, please proceed with your first question, commissioners.
Clackamas County Commissioner Ben West here. I'll be asking the first question. Clackamas County has adopted a recovery-oriented system of care, and infrastructure for our substance use treatment is still needed throughout Oregon and within our counties. What are you willing to do as a senator to make sure services, programming, and infrastructure can be elevated in our communities to meet this need?
Thank you. Mr. Grant, please begin.
I think that statewide, we've had our numerous problems with the drug issue. And, you know, I would definitely love to see our legislation push for, we've repealed our former bills, which is Representative Helfrich has mentioned. You know, we need to get people as much help as we possibly can. And I don't think that we do that by being any more lenient. I think that we need to ensure that we have the proper structure in place to get them help, or let them, you know, they have to hit a certain point of rock bottom to be able to get healthy again. I don't think it's very humane to continue to let people, you know, use drugs and have addiction problems in our state of Oregon. But we also have to have that infrastructure set up to be able to do so. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. Next, Mr. Helfrich. Go ahead, please.
Thanks for the question. Commissioner West, for people's history, when we were looking at 110, there was people in the room for the caucus room and the Republicans that didn't want to reform 110. They wanted to sit there and call for special session and full repeal. I knew we needed to have a plan, and that's why I included you in that process, writing a good bill, writing what you had. That's why we published what we had and how we moved it forward. And part of that conversation was how do we fund these things? Do we get it? Does it go through OHA? Does it go through another nonprofit to get the money out there? And what we found was when it goes through the nonprofits, it doesn't get to the right places at the right time. And so the money's there. It has to get to the counties, and it has to go to the places that do the good work. And Clackamas County is a shining example of not just deflection and treatment, but also accountability with that. And that's the good work that, you know, you and I did working on that bill and moving that forward. But it's always about who's getting the money, where's it going, and it's going to go back to OHA with the accountability portion of that. The money didn't get where it needed to go, and we had to fight for you guys again to get the money and get those grants that you were supposed to get. And we did. We stepped up and we got it done. But it shouldn't take that to get people help that they need. You know, I've seen people in their worst moments, just like you have, and everybody else maybe has seen this on the screen. and it's not a pretty sight. But we have to do our job to help people and get them better. And we have to make sure you guys have the tools to do that. And that's a lot of that is just really self-governance and self-control when it comes to the counties and the cities, knowing what's best for them and how they're going to go about doing it.
Thank you very much. Finally, Ms. Drazen, go ahead, please.
I'm sorry, can I ask Commissioner West to repeat the question? I want to make sure I'm responsive directly.
Yeah, no problem. Clackamas County has adopted a recovery-oriented system of care and infrastructure for substance use treatment. And it's not, there's a typo here, so that might be part of the confusion. Infrastructure for substance use treatment is still needed throughout Oregon within that recovery-oriented system of care, and specifically within our counties. What are you willing to do as a senator to make sure services, programming, and infrastructure can be elevated in our communities to meet this need and crisis?
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. So I was chair of the Clackamas caucus, as you know, when I was a freshman, and have continued to work collaboratively across the aisle on issues specific to Clackamas County. And I really think that that is going to be a gold mine for moving forward, is ensuring that our approach to recovery-based infrastructure, that it's bipartisan. Budgets express priorities, and we are facing budget challenges right now. But unfortunately, what we've seen too often recently in response to addiction in the state of Oregon has not been enough focus on recovery. And I think that Clackamas County in particular has been so crystal clear on the importance of infrastructure that is built out, assuming that people are going to get into recovery and they're going to remain sober long term. And you don't do that without support. You don't do that without the beds. You don't do that without the infrastructure. And I know that you guys had a bipartisan supported ask in this most recent session that didn't make it across the finish line. And I will look forward to advocating for that, in particular with our partners across the aisle, to see if we can't get that done in the upcoming short session. I think it's critically important that recovery be a larger part of this conversation. It has not been. You know, when we talk about beds and we talk about recovery specifically, I mean, whether or not it's homeless services or whatever, it's primarily focused on assuming that people will remain in that state of addiction. And I think Clackamas County has made it really, really clear that the future must be recovery.
Thank you, Ms. Drazen. That concludes all nominee answers to Clackamas County's first question. Clackamas County, if you have a second question, commissioners, please proceed.
Yeah, hello, everyone. Commissioner Paul Savas here. Thank you for the people being present here and answering our questions. I'm going to qualify my question to give you context so I get as clear, or we all get as clear as an answer as possible. When HB 2017 passed, it included a transit tax called STIF, as well as monies for infrastructure, large projects, and help to meet the needs for not only the state, but local cities and counties. And in the earlier part of this discussion, we heard about businesses, and I was a business owner, but I always consider myself an employer first and a business owner second. And I say that because, you know, we are seeing more people falling into homeless economically. The economic drivers that are pushing people out of their homes or putting pressure on them financially really add challenges. Businesses are leaving. They're not really seeing investment, perhaps, in infrastructure. We talk about that a lot. And though we have separate funding streams, the one, again, I'm talking about is the STIF, and I want to bring that back. That had the legislative intent of providing first and last mile connections, basically giving service to areas that have no service. This area has had this region has had an historical challenge in providing equal levels of transportation, transit in this case, to all areas. And there's areas that are served well, and there's areas that are underserved. But however, the stiff tax the unique tax that came from people's paychecks. And the promise was, again, more access and people paying in. And yet there's a lot of people paying into the system, but they're not seeing any new service. And the State Rules Committee changed the rules and allowed some backfilling with that. And now it appears as though some transit agencies, the larger ones, are really using it to backfill and not honoring the intent and the promise that some state legislators voted for. So my question to you all specifically is, what will you do either to get the service promised with this STIF and have that dedicated to that service to help people that really have the need? It's to help keep them at their homes because transportation is getting expensive. What will you do to, again, reinstate the purpose, the legislative intent of those STIF dollars on behalf of the people who need it most?
Thank you, Commissioner Savas. Continuing with our nominee rotation, Mr. Helfrich, please answer first.
Thanks for the opportunity for this question. Commissioner Savas, that's a great question. And I know with Commissioner Merletti, she and I served on the CAT board here in Hood River, which is the Columbia Area Transit Division or Transit Agency, and know firsthand what those dollars mean to them and what it means to have those services. And Clackamas is not immune to that. You have TriMet. I was in the Transit Police Division as a police officer. I saw all the stuff that went on there and a lot of empty buses, and they are sucking up a lot of those dollars that need to go there. You have, I think, 3 different smaller transit agencies, Sandy in Canby, and there's another one, I believe, that all need these dollars. And it's about getting people to the grocery store. It's about seniors that are unable to get to the grocery store or get to their medical appointment or veteran services, all those things. And so my commitment is to make sure those dollars get allocated appropriately to these smaller agencies, because it's not always having a big bus and a big thing to go up and down the freeway to get to the airport, whatever it is. But we have to take care of these smaller communities because these people depend on that service. And it can be as simple as a dial-a-ride. It can be as simple as a van instead of a large bus, and how that service works. And so it's not one size fits all. And with that, I'm going to make sure have that influence, to have that, make sure you guys have the agencies, these smaller transit agencies, not just in the district, but throughout the state, get the appropriate dollars that they need instead of the big gorilla in the room, which usually is TriMet, sucking up a lot of those funds that shouldn't be going there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Helfrich. Next, Ms. Drazen, please answer next.
Thank you. And thank you for the question, Commissioner. This is the topic, right? Like you and I have talked many times about transit, and we both recognize that doubling the payroll tax is something that Oregonians will struggle with, that will affect their take-home pay, that does have a direct impact on Oregon families. And in the case of this particular tax, 60% of it goes to TriMet. And so I would say that in all cases, whenever right now we're talking about government, we just need accountability, and we need that not in a way that says that government doesn't have a function, but that begins to set these expectations that when government is given taxpayer dollars, no matter what the source, no matter what the intent, that they will do with those dollars the absolute best that they can to meet the mission and to serve the citizens. And when it comes to transit, I think that there are transit districts that are innovative and they're modernizing, and then there are transit districts that are a little bit stuck in the past. That maybe the transit systems that were first created have not, in fact, done as good a job being responsive to that first mile, last mile mandate that everybody expected them to begin to close that gap with the 2017 dollars. But instead, we're seeing those same issues. And certainly ridership has not rebounded after 2020. There's no doubt that the world has changed post-COVID, and not everybody is getting on a bus to go to work anymore. A lot of folks are now working remotely. Work-life balance has changed, but the transit system needs to change with it. The transit system needs to be modernized, and they need to be assuring the people that are paying those payroll taxes that they aren't squandering the money, and that the money is actually going for first mile, last mile, and that people are being served. And so I think we've got a ways to go in this issue area. I know that you bird dog this all the time in your work across committees. And that's certainly in my capacity as the state senator, something that I would be anxious to partner with you on.
Thank you very much. Finally, Mr. Grant, please proceed.
Thank you for that question. No, I definitely with that taxation from that bill for STIF, where we go back into accountability, and if we're not being able to spread out our tax dollars to the communities that need it, or if these transportation entities are not being responsible with their funds, that needs to be taken into consideration. And I'm a person that believes in teamwork, on to listen and figure out solutions of how to better serve these tax dollars that need to go into the transportation services. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Grant. Mr. Chair, that concludes all board questions for nominees today.
Thank you, Andrew. Let's move to closing statements. So clerk, could you please moderate those closing statements for us?
Yes, Mr. Chair. As a reminder to the nominees, you will each have 1 minute for your closing statements. First, Representative Helfrich, please begin.
You guys have a tremendous heavyweight on your shoulders to choose who's going to be the next senator. And I'm asking for your vote to be the next senator to fill Senator Bonham's and to continue to run in that role. I have a proven track record in bipartisan work and problem solving. That is what I've done for my career from public services, trying to figure out how to solve problems. Understanding that we're not going to get there all the time, but we have the ability to sit and have a conversation. And you can't walk away. You have to sit there and be at the table, or you can be at the menu, on the menu. I don't want to be on the menu. I always want to sit at the table and have those conversations because it's important. We understand we're going to disagree on certain things, but let's focus on the things that we can get to and fix the problems, and then we can tackle those bigger issues. That said, I believe my 5 years, basically, in my 5 years almost in the legislative body, has helped prepare me for this next step. Do I know all the answers? No. Do I know where to find the answers and look for them and get the right people in the room? Absolutely, I can do that. So I'm asking for your vote to become the next senator for Senate District 26.
Thank you very much. Next, Mr. Grant, please proceed.
Thank you so much for having me today. I have the utmost respect for Representative Drazen and Representative Helfrich. I've helped out on both of their campaigns, but we know that they're going to be there in Salem this February. No matter what the decision is here today, I know that I'm not in a representative position at the moment, and sometimes going into this process can feel a little overwhelming. But I'm no stranger to adversity and taking on hard challenges. What I do is I manage things well, and I get results. And I ask for your vote, and let's hopefully end this process today instead of going to do this process all over again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. Finally, Representative Drazen, please begin.
Thank you. It has been just a pleasure to be with everybody today and talk about the range of issues that affect your counties. And we've had a great conversation about transportation, a great conversation about bipartisanship and preserving the safety net and making sure that Oregonians can, in fact, get the most that they deserve out of our public services and with our shared work together to serve our shared constituents. The conversation that we have had has been one I think that has reflected what Oregonians would want this Senate district to work on their behalf. And I am anxious and ready to do the job on behalf of our shared communities. I'm honored to have the endorsement of Senator Bonham. I'm sure did not give that lightly, and I do not take that lightly. This is a responsibility which I would give my full heart and work to, and I look forward to having the opportunity to serve Senate District 26 in the upcoming year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chair, that concludes closing statements from all nominees.
Thank you. Let's take a short recess before we move on. So it's 2:16 now, so let's return at 2:25 and we'll resume at that time. So let's take a short recess. Thank you. All right, We'll go ahead and reconvene, and right now we're going to move to deliberation. And before we begin, Clerk, would you please remind us of the process so everybody's really clear about that?
Of course, Mr. Chair. As provided by the Secretary of State, commissioners' votes are weighted to reflect the share of voters in Senate District 26 living within each county. Wasco County Commissioners will each have 5 votes. Hood River County Commissioners will each have 3.4 votes. Multnomah County Commissioners will each have 1.8 votes. And Clackamas County Commissioners will each have 13.8 votes. And as an additional reminder, state law requires a nominee to receive only a plurality to be appointed. This means the nominee who gets the most votes, even if not a majority of all votes, will be appointed. That concludes my summary, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So I just want to make sure, colleagues, that there aren't any questions or confusion about the voting structure before we begin this deliberation. Okay, not seeing any hands raised. For deliberations, I'll open the floor to anyone who would wish to speak. After everyone's had a chance to speak, I will call for a vote. So just again, as a reminder, we have many commissioners here today, and I just asked my fellow commissioners to keep their comments as brief as possible to be respectful of everyone's schedule. And do any of my fellow commissioners wish to comment? And just please raise your hand and our clerk will call on you. So now's the time.
Here, Roberts, I had a question. Is this the time to make any comments, or will we also have time to make comments as we're voting?
This is really the time for comments, and then I'll call for a vote after the comments have been made, is how this is set up.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for clarifying that. Then I'm happy to make a comment now at this time. So just I first wanted to just say how much I appreciate everyone stepping forward for this appointment process, whether it is Mr. Grant, who is new to elected office, or Representatives Helfrich and Drazen. Stepping into public service or further public service is always both a big sacrifice on a personal level and family level, but also an incredible privilege of being able to do that work. So I just wanted to thank everyone for that. And I think we have some very well qualified candidates here. It was great to hear from everyone about this. You know, for me, I think that whether it is an appointment to fill a term or for long term, you know, this district deserves the best representation it can have. And I will just say, coming into this, for me, the experience that I've had the most experience, I think, working with Rep. Helfrich. I know that both he has always been available, always met with Multnomah County staff and our government relations team, and has worked bipartisan with us on issues. And even though it's only a very small part of Senate District 26, Multnomah County still is a part of that. And I appreciate the way that he has gotten to know our district and or gotten to know our county and worked on that. So I will be supporting Representative Helfrich today. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Andrew, I'm not seeing any other hands raised. Do you see any? Am I missing anything?
No, Mr. Chair. Just as a reminder to all commissioners, if you wish to comment, to please raise your hand as Madam Chair Vega Peterson did, and I will call on you. Mr. Chair, I have 2 hands. I saw Commissioner Brim Edwards' hands first. Please go ahead, Commissioner.
You know, so we don't have 2 Multnomah County individuals go in a row. I'll just defer and I'll follow Commissioner Ewer.
Okay. I would also like to thank the people who are being considered, 2 people with the experience and a new face from Wasco County. Because my county asked a question about whether or not it might be distracting to run for a statewide office. I've thought about how I would think about the answer to that. And I think there's two ways to look at it. One, that person would be very busy. And the other is, if you want things done, ask a busy person. And I'm not saying that that's an adage that I live by always, but I think the confidence that you have the connections also might to run might also indicate that you have the connections to get things done. And I'm not saying that I'm for or against either. I'm just pointing out that I think that's one of the ways that I would look at it. It is the confidence to run could indicate effectiveness. So I'll just leave it at that and thank everybody.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Brim Edwards, I also see Commissioner Schrader's hand raised. Would you still like to defer or would you like to speak now?
Defer, let the other counties chime in. I was just going to go because nobody else had their hand raised.
Chair, with your approval, then I'll turn to Commissioner Schrader.
That's fine. Go ahead.
Commissioner Schrader, we're not able to hear you. Commissioner Schrader appears to be having technical difficulties with her audio, Mr. Chair.
All right. We might go ahead to Julia then.
You want me to go? Okay. I'll go. I want to thank all three of the individuals who stepped up and your willingness to serve the state in this capacity. I really appreciated hearing your opening statements and also the discussions I had in advance on some issues that are really important to Multnomah County and my district, whether it was housing, economic development, public safety, community corrections, and also the president's call to deploy the military in Portland. I want to just share that Mr. Grant, I'm sorry that I haven't had a chance to work with you, but I appreciate that you have stepped up in your local community to volunteer. I have had a chance to work with Representative Drazen, a senior in action. I know she understands the legislative process. And appreciate her willingness to step up. Representative Helfrich, I've also seen you in the legislative arena and also working on behalf of the constituents and taking in mind sort of some of the complexities and sort of the differences in our communities across the state. I really appreciate that you know through your professional work my commission district and the neighborhoods and the challenges and opportunities that exist. So appreciate your prior professional service, but I really feel that we, in some ways, there's a no-lose situation. There's going to be effective representation in that Senate district and also in the House district with whatever we decide.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chair, I believe Commissioner Schrader is currently working on solving her technical difficulties. She may need just one more moment. With your permission, Chair, I'll ask if there's any other commissioners who would like to speak.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can, Commissioner Schrader.
Okay, thank you so much. For some reason, my mute was not working on my screen touch. So if it happens again, I'm going to have to depend on you to unmute me. Let me just start by saying that I don't think I'm going to say anything earth-shattering that the rest of us are thinking and that my other colleagues have just said. I want to thank Mr. Grant for stepping up to the plate. This is, it can be a pretty grueling experience. And as someone who is looking to serve, I want to thank you for coming today and for giving this, giving yourself the opportunity to begin to hopefully longer term begin a life of public service. Mr. Helfrich, I have always admired you. You are a gentleman. You work tirelessly for the good of the people. And I believe that the work you have done in the legislature has been absolutely stellar. So thank you for that, sir. And finally, Miss Christine Drazen, I've known you for so very long. You're a Canby native, as I once was. And we've had many conversations together where I think that we have worked across the aisle on the issues that matter most to Oregonians. So thank you all, and that's all I have to say at this time. And I would like to hand it over to another commissioner or the chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Schrader. Mr. Chair, I will make a final call for any other commissioners who wish to speak. I see no other hands, but I will ask one more time. If any commissioners wish to speak, to please raise their hands. I see 2 hands, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
3 hands. First, I saw Commissioner Jones-Dixon first, and then Commissioner Savis, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Great.
Mr. Jones-Dixon, Commissioner, please proceed.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Andrew. You're doing an amazing job. Just want to go around and just say thank you to all of the applicants this afternoon, especially Grant. I've been out to Wasco County, hosted a bull riding camp out there. It's beautiful and amazing. Mr. Helfrich as well. I really appreciate your advocacy for the district, specifically around the water filtration plant, and then being out there with you in the community as far as the roads. And then same with you, Rep. Drazen. Thank you for your advocacy and your thoughtful responses this afternoon. And it's always interesting. We continue to think about Multnomah County as far as being one county and how we fold into the rest of the 35 counties here within the state of Oregon. And both of you guys are great representatives of that. So thank you again for taking the time, and I appreciate being a part of this process. Back to you, Andrew.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Savis, I saw your hand next.
Yeah, I too want to just join the crowd here and just say to thank all 3 of you for your roles, and to Mr. Helfrich and Ms. Drazen, thank you for your public service in the state capitol. I know that no matter what happens here today, you'll both be there serving us all. But I do want to say, probably more than anything, this is not an easy decision. I know you both. I know you're all hard workers, and I know you really care. So I just want to just say this is not easy for me. I do appreciate you being here, and I do appreciate your public service. So no matter what happens, I hope that you will all still be engaged. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Savis. Mr. Chair, I see no other hands of commissioners who wish to speak at this time.
Okay, at this point, I'll call for a vote, and I'll ask the clerk to call the votes in alphabetical order by last name, ending with the chairs. And as a reminder, folks, each commissioner's vote is weighted according to their county's population share. It's not one commissioner, one vote system. So clerk, would you please call for the votes and show them in real time on the screen for really clarity and transparency so folks can see that.
Of course, Mr. Chair. I'll now have Clackamas County Assistant Counsel Jeff Munns to please share his screen. You will see the votes tallied in real time as I call the votes. From Hood River, Commissioner Arthur Babbitts.
Thank you very much. I will cast my 3.4 votes for Representative Helfrich.
From Wasco County, Commissioner Phil Brady.
I will cast my 5 votes for Commissioner Jeff Helfrich.
From Multnomah County, Commissioner Julia Brim Edwards.
Casting my 1.8 votes for Representative Helfrich.
From Clackamas County, Commissioner Diana Helm.
I cast my vote for Christine Drazen.
From Multnomah County, Commissioner Vince Jones-Dixon.
I'll cast my vote for Representative Drazen.
From Wasco County, Commissioner Jeff Justison.
I'll cast my vote for Representative Helfrich.
From Hood River County, Commissioner Letisa Moretti.
Thank you. I will cast my vote for Representative Jeff Helfrich.
From Multnomah County, Commissioner Megan Moyer.
I will cast my vote for Representative Helfrich.
From Hood River County, Commissioner Chad Muser.
I will cast my vote for Christine Drazen.
From Clackamas County, Commissioner Paul Savis.
I will cast my vote for Christine Drazen.
From Clackamas County, Commissioner Martha Schrader.
I'll cast my vote for Christine Drazen.
From Multnomah County, Commissioner Shannon Singleton.
I will cast my vote for Representative Helfrich.
From Hood River County, Commissioner Ed Weathers.
Thank you. I vote for Representative Jeff.
From Clackamas County, Commissioner Ben West.
I'll be casting my vote today for Christine Drazen.
Wasco County, Sheriff Scott Hedgie.
I cast my votes for Helfrich.
From Hood River, Chair Jennifer Ewer.
Jeff Helfrich.
Thank you. From Multnomah, Chair Jessica Vega Peterson.
Thank you. I cast my vote for Representative Helfrich.
And from Clackamas County, Mr. Chair Craig Roberts.
I cast my vote for Christine Drazen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That concludes the vote roll call. All commissioners have voted.
All right, council, has plurality been reached?
It has, Chair.
Great, thank you. So on behalf of our boards, congratulations to Christine Drazen, and wanted to give Ms. Drazen a chance to have any comments if she would like, and brief remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you everyone for this opportunity to really vet the issues today and have a discussion with both Representative Helfrich and Mr. Grant. I look forward to the opportunity to work with all of you and to serve this district to the best of my abilities, and certainly to continue my partnership with Mr. Helfrich moving forward. So thank you guys for the time today that you've invested in this process, and thank you for giving all of us an adequate opportunity to really go through our approach and our thinking as it relates to the central issues for your counties and this larger Senate district. So thank you today. I appreciate it very much. I'm honored to have the opportunity to serve.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you to all those residents watching today and provided written comment. It's only through community involvement that we can collectively work to best represent you. Colleagues, our board clerk will coordinate with your staff shortly after this meeting to coordinate the signing of the required documents for the Secretary of State. And council, is there anything else before closing the meeting?
Not at this time, Chair, just that form for the Secretary of State.
Right. And just again, before we adjourn, I want to thank all of the candidates and for their community service, for stepping up, and appreciate the time and effort that everyone's takes. So thank you. And if there's nothing else, we'll be adjourned. Thank you.